instituciones, porque la Asociación Campesina es multicultural. Farmers Association is multicultural, and we need to honor people from all different places and ethnic groups. Tenemos que honrar personas de diferentes grupos étnicos, diferentes comunidades. So maybe you can say your name and just your home country. You know, wherever your home country is. So tu nombre y tu país de origen. Okay. So, me llamo Jeannie, and yo soy griega. I'm Greek, but I was born here. Nací aquí.
Okay, thank you.
Mari?
My name is Maria, and I'm Mexican.
Su nombre es María y ella nació en México. O ella es mexicana.
Mi nombre es Eugenia y soy guatemalteca.
My name is Eugenia, and she's from Guatemala. She was born in Guatemala.
Yo soy Judith Cantú y soy mexicana.
Her name is Judith, and she's from Mexico.
Marianne Ross, United States.
Su nombre es Marianne y nació en Estados Unidos. Su nombre es Linda Lee, nació en América, Estados Unidos.
Jessica, mexicana.
Jessica was born in Mexico. His name is Leonel, and he was born in Mexico.
Haiti.
Yes, he said in Spanish. Lutner Haiti.
Lutner born in here.
Yo soy Luis David. Yo nací en los Estados Unidos, pero tengo una conexión muy fuerte con el sur. I was born in the US, my name is David, but I have strong connections with
Oh.
Cameron.
Am I going? Okay. Hi, I'm Cameron. I'm from the United States.
Su nombre es Cameron y nació en Estados Unidos. Mi nombre es Paola y nací en Colombia. My name is Paola and I was born in Colombia.
Diego.
So, Maru, ¿quieren introducirse allá, please?
Mi nombre es Josué Rodríguez y nací en México.
His name is Josué and he was born in Mexico.
Mi nombre es Guillermina y soy de México.
Her name is
Guillermina.
and she was born in Mexico.
Mi nombre es María Celia, nací en Michoacán.
Her name is María Celi, perdón, and she was born in Michoacán, Mexico.
Next. Mi nombre es Dalia Ortiz y nací en Estados Unidos.
Her name is María Ortiz. Dalia Ortiz, and she was born in United States.
Yo soy Elizabeth, soy de México.
Elizabeth, and she was born in Mexico.
Yo soy Blanca y nací en Puebla, México. Blanca en Puebla.
Her name is Blanca, and she was born in Puebla from Mexico.
Yo soy María y nací en la Ciudad de México.
Her name is Maria, and she was born in Mexico City. ¿Listo por allá?
Let's say, yay! Thank you.
Yay! Thank you so much for coming. Muchísimas gracias por venir. So, now we just wanna ask you all this question. And this is the topic of the workshop. Who has heard about climate change or global warming before? So, vamos a hacer una pregunta. ¿Quién ha escuchado antes de cambio climático o calentamiento global antes? Levanten su mano. Maybe we're going to start.
Todos. Y si no hemos escuchado, lo hemos sentido.
Y lo hemos sentido. And Mario say they have been feeling it too. Feeling it.
So if we can spend maybe just a couple of minutes talking about what do you know about global warming or climate change? What does it mean to you? What have you heard about it? What do you think about it? What does it mean to you? So, a ustedes qué parecen o cuál es, qué piensa que es el global? Calentamiento global. So, who wants to start? So, entonces, una oportunidad para compartir cuáles sus pensamientos, preocupaciones, ideas, quejas. What are your thoughts, your complaints?
If you wanna count the time, 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let me start. For me, it seems to me that the nature is no longer normal. No, it's not working the way it used to, the way it's supposed to. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Luckner dice que lo que él ve es que la naturaleza no está funcionando como debería ser. Así como normalmente él ha observado en la estación.
Well, to me, well, is the same that it used to be, that and have one have something to do with all these stones coming in. And
Lo que pasa es que
but really, what I think got something to do with the changing of it, because it's like it's hotter now than what it used to be in July and August. You know, we used to never get
Hola, Capi, no se entiende.
about 100. So that's not.
can you sit close to the there so that you can translate? You can translate.
Y Marianne dice que ella ha notado que como cuando llueve, las tormentas, todo está más fuerte, que el calor que antes en años pasados, a este tiempo, julio, agosto, no era tan caliente como está ahorita.
¿Ustedes pueden escuchar en Fellsmere? ¿Ustedes escuchan?
Casi no se entiende lo que dicen, casi no se escucha.
¿Te toca cuando traduzcas en español?
Yeah, maybe sit closer and more louder. Okay. So, ¿qué más?
Lo que acabaron de decir aquí es que la naturaleza no está funcionando de la forma como usualmente Luckner lo veía venir, la venía a ver funcionar. Y Marianne habló sobre tormentas y de cómo está sintiendo cada vez más calor.
So let's do uno más, and then we're going to start.
You can see it happening all over the world because look at the North Pole, the polar bears dying, the fish, the salmon not running like this. And I've seen a big documentary on different things around the world that's happening that should not be happening. Is at normal. So we need to change the world or change the system of the world or something. That's to make things right about it. So we can get back to the norm now. This is that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Linda Lee dice que si tomamos en cuenta los animales, sobre todo en el Polo Norte, los osos polares no están bien, el hielo se está derritiendo, el salmón no está corriendo como antes, entonces que todo esto tiene que ver con el calentamiento global. ¿Me escucharon bien?
Sí.
Ok. Y ella también dice que tenemos que hacer algo para cambiar lo que estamos haciendo.
Well, we could talk a lot more about that, but let's get into this and then we can talk more afterwards. Okay, so tenemos podríamos hablar más de esto, pero vamos a empezar con la presentación y podemos discutir más después. Okay, so lights, camera, action.
So we're gonna have this presentation over here in English for the people who speak in English. Y en esta pantalla vamos a tener la presentación en español para las personas que hablan español.
How cool is that? That's pretty high tech, huh?
Yeah, we're all in the same page. Estamos todos en la misma página. Y aquí en Zoom, I think I need. Y aquí en Zoom les vamos a compartir la pantalla de la presentación. ¿Sí la ves, Maru?
Sí.
Entonces, la voy a poner en...
Oh, well, it's on my computer. Do you want me to choose it?
What do you mean?
No, that's for them.
This is your computer, right?
Yes.
So we want to start now.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we're gonna do English first or Spanish?
I think English if you want.
Okay, so you can see the people in this picture, right? We want to talk about how climate change affects the people in this picture and really all of us.
Entonces estamos viendo a esta gente en estas fotos y lo que queremos hacer es aprender cómo el cambio climático afecta a estas personas.
And why are we here? Why are we here to talk about climate change? Because it does affect all of us.
¿Y por qué estamos acá hablando de cambio climático? Es porque nos afecta a todos.
Este tiene flores, este tiene papas y aquí están sembrando, cosechando, no sé.
What did you say?
She was talking about the pictures. She was talking about the potatoes. And they were growing food.
So, one of the reasons that climate change is so important to the Farm Workers Association is because agriculture is a cause of climate change, and it's a cure for climate change, and farm workers are some of the most affected people by climate.
Pues vamos a empezar a hablar de esto porque agricultura es uno de las causas de cambio climático, pero también es una de las respuestas del cambio climático.
So, okay, so there's and some people already know this because Linda has been on presentations where we've talked about this. So how many people know what agricultural exceptionalism is?
Algunos de ustedes saben qué es esto, como Linda Lee, que ha vivido por esto, pero ¿cuántos de ustedes saben qué es excepcionalismo agricultural?
Levanten su mano. ¿Quién sabe qué es excepcionalismo agrícola?
Okay, so this is really important. Okay, this is really important because the Farm Worker Association is here to fight for social justice for farm workers. Why? Why do we need to fight for social justice for farm workers? Because farm workers have been excluded from labor laws that protect almost all other workers in the United States.
Entonces estamos aquí hablando de esto y también porque peleamos para los trabajadores de campo y es porque ellos han sido excluidos de leyes de labor doméstico por todo este tiempo.
So that is why the Farm Worker Association is here to fight for social justice, because farm workers do not have social justice.
Y la Asociación Campesina está aquí para pelear para justicia social para esta gente porque no tienen justicia social.
When President Roosevelt was president of the United States, in the 1930s, they passed a thing called the New Deal. And the New Deal was big. It included labor laws to protect workers in the United States, because working conditions before that for all workers in the United States were horrible. And people rose up and they protested and they boycotted and they struck. There were riots in the street because people were treated so badly that President Roosevelt said, we have to have a new deal to have protections for workers.
En los 1930, durante la presidencia de Roosevelt, las leyes eran tan malas y las condiciones muy pobres para los trabajadores que todo el mundo se unió protestando, haciendo paros y llevaron a que el presidente sacara un nuevo negocio que significaba nuevas leyes para los trabajadores.
Why?
Because the conditions, there was a book in the 1920s called, I can't really remember, but it's a famous book. The conditions were really bad. People were like, they had to work like, 20-hour days, and they didn't have a place to sleep. They worked 7 days a week in horrible conditions. That's when they had the factories up in the Northeast. People had horrible conditions. Women were put in to make clothes, and pregnant women didn't have time they didn't have time to eat or sleep. No breaks. They had to work all day long with no lunch breaks, no breaks. Horrible conditions. Terrible conditions.
Me preguntó que por qué la gente estaba protestando y Jimmy explicó que era por las condiciones de los trabajadores. En ese tiempo era cuando tenían fábricas en el norte con condiciones terribles. No habían leyes para las personas, las mujeres embarazadas que tenían que trabajar igual. Y por todo eso era que estaban protestando en los años 30.
It means that it sounds like it was the time of slavery.
So that's exactly what we're talking about, okay? It was like slavery, okay? And in the 1930s, it was so bad. 1920s and 30s, it was so bad. It was like it's almost like slavery. So that's when the President Roosevelt, the Congress passed laws to protect workers. But two kinds of workers were not included, and farm workers and people that worked in the homes, domestic workers, people that cleaned houses, took care of people, they were not included in the laws that protected all other workers.
Entonces, estos tiempos casi eran iguales a los tiempos de esclavitud, por eso fue que se pasaron estas nuevas leyes, pero al pasar estas nuevas leyes no incluían a los trabajadores de campo ni a las personas que hacían trabajo doméstico, como limpiar, como hacer trabajo de campo y todo eso. Entonces ahí es donde viene la exclusión, porque los trabajadores no habían sido incluidos en eso.
Okay. And why were farm workers and domestic workers deliberately excluded from the laws? Why?
¿Y saben por qué estaban solo esos dos trabajos estuvieron excluidos de la ley? ¿Alguien sabe?
Why were all other workers given rights?
Y todos los otros trabajadores sí les dieron derechos, pero no a estos.
And the U.S. government said it was okay to not give those rights to people that worked on farms and people that worked in people's homes. Why? Why?
Y el gobierno dijo que estaba bien no darle derechos a la gente que trabajaba en los campos ni que trabajaba domésticamente. ¿Por qué?
You know why? Because they were mostly people of color.
Porque era toda gente de color.
Because it was mostly it was mostly slaves who would come from Africa.
Porque eran más que todo esclavos.
That were the ones that worked on the farms.
Que eran los que trabajaban en el campo.
And in the homes.
Y en las casas.
So you need to understand that these laws are the legacy of slavery in the United States
Y
today.
tenemos que entender que estas reglas son solo la continuación de esclavitud en los Estados Unidos.
Anybody that works with the Farm Worker Association, if you're a volunteer, if you're a leadership committee person, if you're a staff member, if you're a supporter, you need to know this reality, because this reality is the basis for our entire agricultural system.
Y si ustedes están trabajando con la Asociación Campesina, esto es muy importante de aprender y saberlo, porque es la base de todo este trabajo, porque es el trabajo contra la esclavitud.
It's okay, I'm okay. No.
Okay. So this is one of the laws that was passed. This is called the National Labor Relations Act. And most all other workers are protected under this, but farm workers are not. And this gives people the right to collectively bargain, which means like they can form unions. And farm workers were left out because the agricultural industry was so powerful. Farm workers were left out of being protected under this law.
Okay, y entonces bajo esta ley nacional de relaciones laborales del 35, se les prohibía a los trabajadores sindicalizarse y participar en acciones colectivas, pero igual excluía a los trabajadores agrícolas.
Sí queda claro.
So that one would include everybody? I lost that.
Yeah, this one, everybody except farm workers
And
domestic workers.
Mm-hmm. So that's why farm workers don't have the right to form a union, except in California, because, yeah.
So, todas estas leyes fueron aplicadas a todos los trabajadores, excepto a los trabajadores agrícolas y a los trabajadores domésticos.
This is the Fair Labor Standards Act, and this was passed in the 1930s as well. And this gives workers the right to earn a minimum wage, the right to have overtime, and there were also regulations in there to protect children from child labor laws. And again, farm workers were excluded from this law.
Esto es otra ley que salió en 1935, el Acto de Seguridad Social, que les daba a los empleados compensación de desempleo y salarios mínimos, y también habían leyes contra trabajo para niños. Pero igual, otra vez, los trabajadores del campo excluidos. Y domésticos, trabajadores domésticos.
Farm workers still don't have overtime, but they do have minimum wage, and there's some little bit better for child labor, but not much. There's still, kids 12 years old can still work in farm work.
Y presentemente,
Go ahead.
In 1935. 1960. I was still killing.
Yeah.
They were not paying minimum wage.
Yeah. So,
Linda Lee dice que eso pasó, esta ley pasó en 1935, pero ella se acuerda que era 1960 y todavía había niños, todos los campos estaban llenos de niños y no tenían salario mínimo.
yeah, I mean, ahora, I mean, there's kids in.
Como en medicina no se van a trabajar y no les dicen nada.
Yeah.
O hay leyes que los protejan a los niños.
Yeah.
Y no empezaron a enforzar hasta los 70.
And the last one is OSHA, which protects people for health and safety. And farm workers were excluded from most of the protections under OSHA.
Y esta otra se llama OSHA, es contra protecciones como
Salud y seguridad.
como
Salud.
sanitación ambiental y eso, pero igual otra vez no fueron excluidos los trabajadores de campo.
Okay. So this just says that that's why the Farm Worker Association is here, because we're here for the exploited and vulnerable populations, because farm workers were disenfranchised as group of workers, and even today they face discrimination and intimidation in the workplace. But this is historic. It's not just today. There's historic behind what's happening today in agriculture. And that's why it's good to understand this, to understand the history behind what the Farm Worker Association is working on now.
Okay, entonces, la asociación trabaja por ayudar poblaciones vulnerables y explotadas. Y esto no es solo ahora, esto tiene historia de mucho tiempo, de discriminación de los trabajadores, ¿cierto? Sobre todo los trabajadores de campo.
Sí, y lo que dice ahí, trabajamos para personas que se les han privado sus derechos como trabajadores y que en este momento siguen enfrentando discriminación e intimidación en el lugar de trabajo.
Okay, so one of the things that the Farm Worker Association works on is health and safety of farm workers. And so you see that farm workers have been exploited for 2 centuries or more. And not just on wages, but also on farm workers put their health and safety at risk to feed us. And so some of the things that affect their health and safety are exposure to the heat, exposure to pesticides. This can affect their reproductive health and the second generation. And there's many more issues around health and safety, including people falling from ladders and things like that.
Lo principal de que la asociación se enfoca es la salud y la seguridad de los trabajadores, pero los trabajadores han sido explotados por más de 200 años. Pero estas son algunas de las cosas que los afectan más, que es el estrés por el calor, exposición a pesticidas y problemas con salud reproductiva y muchos más como caídas y
Respaldos.
Cáncer. ¿A los niños? No, todos los trabajadores del campo.
So how do we change this? Okay, because our system of agriculture exploits not only people but the planet. So how do we change this? The way we do agriculture in the United States, we've seen already from the previous talk that farm workers have been exploited and treated horribly, treated like slaves. But our system of agriculture has also treated our planet, exploited our planet also.
Entonces, en este tiempo nuestro sistema de agricultura aquí en este país explota no solo la gente, como lo hemos visto, sino también el planeta. Entonces, ¿cómo cambiamos esto? ¿Qué vamos a hacer para cambiar esto?
So one solution to that, who's heard of sustainable agriculture? ¿Quién ha escuchado de agricultura sostenible?
¿Allá han escuchado agricultura sostenible? Levanten su mano. Agricultura sostenible.
Okay, so when we try to fight for justice for farm workers, at the same time, we need to fight for justice for the planet, because the two are the same thing. We're part of the planet, and the planet's part of us. We're part of the earth, and the earth is part of us. People are separated from the earth, and they don't understand that anymore. but we are one with the earth, and the earth is one with us. And we need to understand that because that is who we are at the very core of who we are.
Y es muy importante que entendamos que cuando peleamos para los trabajadores, también estamos peleando para la tierra, porque somos uno, estamos conectados, los trabajadores y la tierra.
So sustainable agriculture is a way to change agriculture to stop the exploitation. And that includes making the most out of resources. I hate that word. What's a resource? I mean, I really hate that word. Resource, no, man, not resource, water, air, earth. Let's get real, fire. I hate that word resource. The real thing is air, water, land. That's what we're talking about. So let's say it for what it really is. Resources, and let's make the most out of, let's use our air, water, and land in the best way. So like Linda said, and Marianne and Luckner said, so that the earth won't keep changing like it is. So we go back to the earth the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, agricultura sostenible se trata de usar de la forma más correcta los recursos. Pero a mí no me gusta esa palabra, no me gusta la palabra recursos, porque ¿qué son los verdaderos recursos? Entonces, Ginny está hablando de, usemos de la mejor manera el agua, el aire, esos recursos que tenemos, esos ciclos biológicos naturales que estamos deformando.
Okay. And the other thing is, if we can start to use sustainable agriculture, it can improve the quality of life for all of us, for farm workers and society as a whole.
Y que también que si seguimos con agricultura sostenible, se nos va a cambiar la calidad de vida, no solo para nosotros, sino como para la sociedad.
So sustainable agriculture can improve the environment. It can improve our natural resources. That means it can improve our land, water, and air. And it can improve our economy.
Agricultura sostenible no solo ayuda en la calidad del ambiente, sino también la base de recursos. Y también ayuda con la economía que depende de ese agricultura.
And most of all, which is what we're talking about today, is it can help reduce and change climate change.
Y lo más importante, que es lo que estamos hablando hoy, es que reduce y cambia el cambio climático.
Okay, so the agriculture, the way we do, how many people have pesticides on their food?
¿Cuánta gente tiene pesticidas en su comida?
Okay.
¿Cuánta gente qué?
Tiene pesticidas en su comida.
So, if you think that you don't have pesticides on your food, you're wrong.
Si usted piensa que no tiene pesticidas en su comida, está mal.
Porque all of us have pesticides.
Porque todos tenemos pesticidas en la comida.
Okay, so the use of pesticides and fertilizers on our food and agriculture are one of the major causes of climate change.
El uso de pesticidas y fertilizantes en nuestra comida es la causa más grande de cambio climático.
And you don't hear this on the news, but this is the reality, and they're not talking about it. Because why? Because the agricultural companies that kept people enslaved, the agricultural companies that stopped laws to protect farm workers has so much power, they don't want that in the news.
Y no se escucha esto en las noticias porque las compañías de agricultura que han tenido a gente esclavizada para su agricultura no quiere que sepamos eso.
Have you heard about the burning of the forests in Brazil?
¿Han escuchado de la jungla en Brasil que se quedan quemados?
Okay. So what's happening there is people are cutting down the forest beautiful forest.
El Amazonas.
I know, me too. They're cutting down forests. You know why? Because people are greedy and they want to make money to grow cattle or to grow food. And they're cutting down what are the lungs of the earth.
Lo que está pasando en Brasil es están acabando con selva para crecer comida o para tener animales.
Están talando los bosques.
And so when they cut down the forest and plant things or bring in cattle, they end up using pesticides and fertilizers, and they're hurting the earth, and then that produces what's called carbon dioxide, which is the main problem with climate change.
Entonces, cuando cortan árboles y traen comida o animales, empiezan el uso de pesticidas y químicos que en turno produce CO2, que es lo peor para el cambio climático.
Dióxido de carbono.
By burning down the rainforest and not doing anything about it, the burning of the trees creates more CO2 in the air that we can get inside the atmosphere and how we live. And so the trees, they really help us because they turn the CO2 into the oxygen that we breathe. And so if we don't have like those resources, like the trees, plants, all this around us, then we basically won't like have like we can't live anymore. We have to wear gas masks or like we have to wear oxygen masks all the time because we won't have the air around us. And that's a very important like resource that you said, like the air and like the earth that we have here. And it's just it's like it's something that we really take for granted because like we basically don't see the point of view of like the future. We just go on with our everyday lives, and like we don't think about like the earth that we walk on and like the air that we breathe. And we take that away from all these people that will actually realize that we're having a very heavy impact.
Okay, you gotta give Diego a chance.
Nadie dice que no solo lo que explicó Ginny, de que cuando traen esto produce más carbón, sino que también el hecho de quemar los árboles, eso produce aún más CO2 en la atmósfera. Y también lo que ella dice que nosotros no, con nuestra vida cotidiana, creo que no nos hemos parado a pensar que cuando se acabe eso, no vamos a poder.
No se te escucha.
Ni nada va a poder sobrevivir sin ese oxígeno que están creando esos árboles que estamos acabando.
So to me, the most important thing that just happened right now was that you heard the voice of the next generation. And what are we doing to the next generation? What kind of planet are we leaving the next generation?
Y lo más importante que pasó ahorita es que escuchamos la voz de la nueva generación que viene y qué le estamos haciendo a esa generación, qué planeta le estamos dejando a esa generación.
How many people here have kids?
¿Cuántas personas aquí tienen hijos?
¿Qué estamos dejando?
¿Cuántos tienen hijos allá?
Todos.
O hijas.
O hijas, o hijes.
Bueno, nada más una no.
Nada más que todos.
Casi todos.
Here for this, because what we do here today and what you do after today is going to mean the future for your children.
Entonces, ustedes tienen que estar aquí porque lo que hacemos hoy, de lo que hablamos hoy, lo que hacemos mañana, va a ser el futuro de nuestros pequeños.
Yo vi un comentario que decía, nosotros siempre nos preguntamos qué mundo le estamos dejando a nuestros hijos, pero nunca nos preguntamos qué hijos le estamos dejando a nuestro mundo, porque nosotros no estamos educando a nuestros hijos en cómo cuidar.
Jessica says that she saw a commentary that we're always asking what world we're living for kids, but we never ask what kids are we leaving to the world, because we're not teaching our kids what it means to take care of the world.
We can go to the next.
But they're in Spanish. Pero ni se iluminen, pues.
Ay, sí, pero igual, tienes que estar acá. Pero tienes que estar acá.
So,
They are
so
saying.
again, a lot of people say that, you know, that farms and everything cause global warming, but so the Farm Worker Association works on farm workers and agriculture. Agriculture in the world employs the most people. 1.3 billion people in the world work in some kind of agriculture. Big farms or little tiny farms in Africa that have a person has 1 acre. But it employs, I would say, more than okay.
La agricultura le da trabajo globalmente a más de 1.3 billones de personas. Mucho más.
And then you can see, this is, so people talk about, oh, you know, we can't afford to change agriculture, we can't afford to spend this or spend that because it's going to cost us money. But look at how much money agriculture produces. Almost $2 trillion a year worth of products from agriculture.
Uno de los grandes debates es que al decir que cambiemos de agricultura, mucha gente dice que no, que costaría mucho, pero mirando lo que produce la industria agricultural, que está produciendo más de 1.7 trillones de bienes por año, es más que suficiente para cambiar.
Agriculture uses 40% of our resources, air, water, land.
Y hablando de recursos, agricultura usa el 40% de la capacidad del planeta en recursos.
The way we do agriculture today,
tiene como que qué cosa van a
so they use pesticides, fertilizer, they cut down forests, and they use their workers. Okay, that is the biggest threat to climate change on our planet.
Y la amenaza más grande a nuestro planeta es la agricultura industrial.
Y por eso yo creo que no iba ahí, sino porque no lo pongo. Pero ya vi que sí me tiene que ir.
Y eso suena bien depresivo, pero es una oportunidad muy grande porque si cambiamos esa industria, cambiamos todo el planeta.
¿Ustedes quieren aprender cómo reciclar? ¿O qué es?
No, porque se está diciendo que acá en el Amazonas hay hace tiempo
that like agriculture that we have now, which is like using like pesticides and polluting our airways and like our waterways.
Okay. Madeline dice que a veces solo nos estamos enfocando en cosas muy pequeñas como no usar plástico, como no usar utensilios como desechables, pero que nos olvidamos de la foto más grande, que es las emisiones en el aire, el CO2, que es la agricultura industrial. Entonces que deberemos tomar un paso atrás y mirar las cosas como la foto más grande.
So when you listen to the news on TV, you probably hear what's happening in Washington, D.C., you hear what's happening in New York City, or Los Angeles, and California, or maybe, you know, China, or India. You hear about all these different things in the news, right? Okay? What you don't hear is that half of the entire population of the world is still living in rural areas.
Entonces, cuando ustedes prenden las noticias, siempre escuchan de ciudades grandes, de Nueva York, de Los Ángeles, de pronto de China, cosas internacionales, pero lo que nunca se oye es que la mitad de la población del planeta todavía vive en zonas rurales.
So if you live in Florida, there isn't much rural area left anymore because they're tore all down, put up shopping malls, housing complexes.
Y en Florida, si vives en Florida, ya se está yendo todas las zonas rurales porque están construyendo todo.
But some of us old people remember what it was like when it was rural. Yes.
Pero algunos de nosotros viejos nos acordamos de cómo era aquí antes cuando era rural.
We became the lowrides. What? We became the lowrides. It's a movie about when they cut down all the trees. Right, right. And I showed it to my grandkids. But it's what's gonna happen.
Linda le dice que hay una película, una movie de que se trata de esto, de cuando acabaron con todos los bosques y se volvió todo ciudad.
But there's hope, and the hope is in small-scale farming. So we talked about half the planet as rural, okay? And those people that live in those rural areas, they have small farms. They might have an acre of land. They might grow corn and peas for their family.
Está hablando en inglés y él es el que traduce.
Maru, ¿no estás viendo la presentación?
Sí.
Oh, okay.
Entonces la esperanza que tenemos es granjas pequeñas, de escala pequeñas, volviendo a la población, la mitad de la población que vive en zonas rurales. Ahí en esas zonas rurales es donde tenemos que tener granjas en escala pequeña. Pero el problema es que agricultura industrial no quiere que esas granjas pequeñas pasen, entonces los están empujando para afuera.
But there's cases of black farmers who couldn't get loans from the United States Department of Agriculture. And they got pushed off their land that they had in their families for 4 generations. They got pushed off their land because of discrimination.
Y para tocar algo rápido, hay historias de granjeros negros que han tratado de pedir un préstamo al Departamento Agricultural de los Estados Unidos y les han negado solo porque son discriminatorios. Hay familias latinas de granjeros latinos que quieren empezar sus propios negocios, pero otra vez hay racismo en el sistema de comida, entonces no los dejan. Por esta razón tenemos que pelear por justicia.
No quería pagar, pero te podía dar de ahí.
Realmente la agricultura industrial hace con el objetivo de ganar dinero. Entonces, si es el dinero es lo que finalmente mueve la agricultura industrial, si no se afecta directamente el dinero de ellos, no se va a dejar de hacer. ¿Cómo podríamos afectar el dinero para estos agricultores industriales? Educando al consumidor. Pero ¿cómo educamos al consumidor si él está ensimismado en que tengo que trabajar porque tengo que pagar mis biles, tengo que trabajar porque tengo que hacer? Entonces, es simplemente la cadena se vuelve como que un vicio, el hecho de trabajo, casa, trabajo, no me da tiempo a pensar, porque no tengo tiempo para pensar en mi futuro, no tengo tiempo para pensar en mi mañana, en lo que haré. Por eso, en el tiempo que he estado acá, yo puedo observar la inmediatez es lo que rige la vida en los Estados Unidos. La inmediatez. Pero ¿cómo podemos solucionar la vida en inmediatez para que la persona pueda pensar en el mañana? Es como decía un filósofo, decía el filósofo, si tenemos tiempo para vivir, tenemos tiempo para pensar en la eternidad. Pero si no tenemos tiempo en la vida, tenemos que pensar en la inmortalidad, sí, lo que nos va a llevar a la muerte.
He says that since he's been here, what he's noticed is that there's this vicious cycle in everyday life here that you are so busy trying to figure out how to survive, how to go to work,
Ya ven, no somos los únicos que
forget
estamos
the other stuff.
en
And
acción,
also he says that
sino que hay gente
figure out
también
a way how to
quiere
stop,
hacer
because what drives
tan fácilmente.
the big industry is money, right? So like, how do we stop that money from going to them? Because that's the only thing that's going to disrupt the system, is stopping that flow of money. It's the only way. So what he's saying is we need to figure out a way to disrupt that money that's going to them, because that's the only way that we're going to stop it.
Today we're gonna learn this stuff.
Cantidad para una persona.
Que hoy vamos a aprender de esto y mañana vamos a actuar. Tomorrow, what are we doing tomorrow, Julie? No? Oh, so it's
This Saturday.
hypothetical. Oh, pero entonces no es mañana, entonces.
Ya, por 10, darme 5 yo y darme.
Ya para una sola
Ya,
persona es
por
demasiado.
eso digo.
Motivate, but first of all, educate, motivate, mobilize.
Estuvieras
Para educar, motivar,
para allá en México, pues las
Para que podamos hacer cambios.
Pero en mi rancho yo nunca hice para los dinero. Mira, pues,
Industrial food system, everybody just said this was kind of skip this.
eso que no pueden
Diversity on our planet.
Entonces el sistema industrial de comida en este país degrada y destruye la biodiversidad del planeta y envenena ecosistemas con fertilizantes y pesticidas, incluyendo nosotros.
But this is important. This is really, really important. Okay. So people talk about, oh, the oil industry, right? We have wars over oil.
Y yo tampoco.
Killed because of
Okay, yo lo vi.
right? But what you people don't know is that oil, petroleum, fertilizers.
So entonces hablamos mucho del petróleo, que hay una discusión muy grande sobre el petróleo, pero lo que no pensamos, lo que mucha gente no sabe, es que los pesticidas vienen del petróleo.
They use petroleum to make pesticides.
I just said that.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. They use petroleum to fly strawberries from California to Florida.
Y también usan el mismo petróleo para transportar las fresas de California a Florida.
So you can go to New York in the wintertime and find strawberries.
Entonces puedes comer fresas frescas en Nueva York en el invierno.
In New York, in the wintertime, that's because we're sending strawberries sometimes from Brazil to New York.
Y es porque estamos usando petróleo para mandar cosas que no están en cosecha para lugares donde las quieren.
And all that flying of produce back and forth is using petroleum, which is putting more carbon dioxide into the air, which is continuing to cause global warming.
Y todo ese uso de petróleo causa más dióxido de carbono en la atmósfera, que sigue el cambio climático.
And all of that is very unhealthy for all of us.
Y todo eso es muy malo para todos
So
nosotros.
we should be eating strawberries when strawberries grow in season.
Entonces deberíamos comer frutas cuando estén en cosecha, como en su season, en su temporada.
You're probably going to disagree with this, but let me tell you one thing, strawberries have some of the highest. How many people like strawberries?
¿A cuántos les gustan las fresas?
Me too, but I don't eat strawberries.
Las fresas son una de las frutas que tienen más pesticidas en
That's not what
But it is. Sorry.
Because strawberries have some of the highest levels of pesticides of any fruit possibly in the United States. Okay, so what's the connection? So we talked about racism and discrimination of farm workers and the planet, right?
Entonces, ¿cuál es la conexión? Hablamos de racismo, de discriminación.
And we talked about climate change and what causes climate change and how agriculture can help, is one of the causes of climate change.
Hablamos de las causas de cambio climático y cómo agricultura es una de las causas primarias para el cambio climático.
But the connection is called climate justice.
Pero la conexión es justicia climática.
Because a lot of environmentalists, usually white people, are sitting there trying to say, oh, we're going to save the polar bear. I love polar bears. I love polar bears. Okay, that's not the point. Okay?
Pero activistas, sobre todo blancos, se sientan a decir que tenemos que salvar a los osos polares.
Okay? But if we're saving polar bears, and yet we're to save polar bears, we're putting people of color at risk. Okay?
Pero antes de guardar los osos polares, deberíamos primero preocuparnos de la gente de color que estamos poniendo en riesgo.
That's racism and that's injustice.
Eso es injusticia y es racismo.
So what we fight for is what's called climate justice.
Entonces, por lo que peleamos nosotros se llama justicia climática.
Because the people who have the least contributions to causing climate change
Porque la gente que tienen la menos contribución que causa cambio climático son los más afectados.
people most affected by climate change. So people of color are the most affected by climate change because they live in areas where there can be floods. They live in areas where there can be natural disasters. They don't have money to, like Trump, he doesn't care if there's going to be storms. He can fly here or fly there, go to different houses or whatever. He doesn't care. People that don't have money, people that are, people of color live in places where there's, poor living conditions, and they're the most affected.
Entonces, la gente más afectada por el cambio climático es la gente pobre, la gente marginalizada, la gente de color, porque son las personas que viven en los lugares donde se va a inundar, donde van a pasar huracanes, que no tienen infraestructuras para cuidarse. La gente rica no le importa porque pueden volar para donde quieran, pueden irse a algún lugar si se va a inundar. Esto se llama racismo ambiental. Cuando la gente que menos aporta para el cambio climático son los más afectados por el cambio climático. Cuando la gente que más afecta al cambio climático son los menos afectados.
So when you hear people talking about, oh, we need to fix climate change, okay, if they're not talking about climate justice, if they're telling people, if there's people at the top, like politicians, and the big people in the corporations that have lots of money, if they're the ones that are saying, oh, we're going to do this to fix climate change, well, they're not thinking about the people that are in our communities.
Entonces, cuando oímos que tenemos que arreglar el medio ambiente, tenemos que primero escuchar que tenemos que cambiar el racismo ambiental primero.
So what we want to fight for is not just changing climate change, but we want to fight for climate justice.
Y no solo queremos pelear por cambiar pelear el cambio climático, sino pelear por justicia climática.
Okay? And that means that the people who are affected should be the people that are leading the charge.
Y eso quiere decir que la gente que está más afectada son los que tienen que tomar las decisiones.
And that's all of you and all of the people in our communities. You all, our communities need to be the ones that are leading. Like you were saying, it's us that need to be leading. You were talking about what are we going to do? What are we going to do? It's up to us to lead that. To say, we're not going to accept this.
Y somos nosotros los que tenemos que tomar cargo y liderar esto para cambiar las cosas.
So some people like Linda and Marianne, who've been doing this for a long time, know about environmental racism. And environmental racism is, how many people live in Apopka?
Entonces, gente como Linda y Marianne han estado haciendo esto por mucho tiempo y saben muy bien lo que es racismo ambiental. ¿Y cuánta gente vive aquí en Sur de Apopka?
Okay, if you live in Apopka, you know that there's a medical waste incinerator here, a landfill, a wastewater facility, a superfund site for contaminated waste.
Si usted vive en Apopka, no sé si sabía, pero hay un incendiador de desechos médicos, hay 3 botaderos de basura, una planta para tratar agua desposable. Y hay también un área tóxica. ¿Y por qué tenemos todo esto acá? Porque gente negra vive aquí, porque gente de color vive aquí. Por eso tienen acá.
This is very sad, but if you are a person of color, you are more likely to live near a contaminated site where there's
Y esto es muy triste, pero si usted es una persona de color, una persona negra, es más que seguro es seguro que vive más cerca de aire contaminado, agua contaminada o tierra contaminada.
Okay, so the answer to this is, and we're gonna, this is just, again, this is just the beginning, but the answer to this is sustainable agriculture and agroecology.
Entonces, la respuesta para eso es agricultura sostenible y agroecología.
And I'm just gonna read this because it's getting late, so I'm just gonna read what this says and then we can.
Voy a leer esto rápido porque se está haciendo tarde.
So sustainable agriculture and agroecology mean, and we're doing this in the community garden, it means the use of organic fertilizers, not chemical fertilizers.
Quiere decir el uso de fertilizantes orgánicos, no químicos.
The use of a thing called integrated pest management instead of pesticides.
El uso de... espera.
Manejo de plagas.
Mantenimiento de plagas integrado en vez de uso de pesticidas.
Okay. Rotating crops.
Rotación de cultivos.
So instead of planting the same crop on the same land,
En vez de plantar el mismo cultivo año tras año, cambiándolos cada año.
Because if you change the plants, then you have to replenish the soil.
Porque si cambias las plantas, la familia plantas, empiezas a ayudarle al piso.
And then also removing the weeds by hand instead of using chemicals to kill weeds.
Y el uso de no matar plantas con químicos.
Okay. And lastly, community gardens.
Y lo último, jardines de comunidad.
And small scale farming are a way to
y granjas pequeñas.
Change climate. So this, I'm gonna just say this and then turn it over to Paola. But agroecology is farming that is centered on food production that makes the best use of air, soil, and water, while not damaging them. And you can see this is a picture of our community garden in Fellsmere and our community garden in Apopka, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's model.
Entonces, agroecología es la agricultura que se centra en la producción de alimentos que hace el mejor uso de los recursos, que estos son aire, agua, tierra, de la naturaleza sin dañarlos. Y estas son 2 fotos de los 2 jardines comunitarios en Fellsmere y en Apopka.
Including Mario.
Incluyendo a Mario.
Incluyendo a Mario, con la pañoleta rosada.
So we like to say that our ancestors knew what agroecology is. Nos gusta decir que nuestros ancestros y ancestros saben y ya sabían lo que es agroecología. These family farms eran estas pequeñas ranchos de familia, and where you work in a harmony with nature and with the people around you. En donde ustedes trabajan en armonía con la tierra y con las personas que están en su alrededor. We feel it's that simple, and we want to invite you to participate to that community garden. We have some community members over here, Linda Lee, Marianne, and also some plants from the garden. Así que los queremos invitar a participar de el jardín comunitario. Es así de simple como lo creemos nosotros. Aquí hay unas personas del Jardín Comunitario. I also forgot to say that the people in person have other community garden. Las personas en person también tienen otro jardín comunitario. And FOAP has community gardens in Immokalee and Homestead. Apopka in person. FOAP tiene 4 jardines en Homestead, Immokalee, Apopka y Pearson. And as you all see through the presentation, there is a lack of support from the government, from the organizations, to these communities, to Black and Brown communities who actually want to do things in the right way. So that's why we need people. We need people power, and we believe and we appreciate your knowledge. We like in the garden to listen the knowledge of Linda and other people who have been coming, and that's how we build our knowledge. So lo que acaba de decir es que hay un poco apoyo de los gobierno, como lo vieron por toda la presentación, de las organizaciones en apoyar la agricultura local de las comunidades negras y morenas y las comunidades más afectadas. Por eso necesitamos el apoyo de la gente, de los jóvenes y del conocimiento de ustedes. En el jardín nos gusta recolectar el conocimiento de nuestros ancestros y eso es lo que hace el sentido de este proyecto.
Okay, so sí se puede, yes we can.
Okay.
So if we organize, we can make a difference.
Si nos organizamos, podemos hacer una diferencia. We are doing community garden work days now that we're talking about actions. We are doing community garden days every Wednesday and Saturday. We have a group of children and we need a lot of volunteers and support. Ya que estamos hablando de acción y de qué es lo que vamos a hacer, les contamos que tenemos días de trabajo en el jardín los miércoles y los sábados. Tenemos un grupo de niños y niñas y necesitamos bastantes voluntarios y ayuda. So, yeah.
Okay, so
Do you all have any questions?
let's go ahead and turn on the lights. Okay, can we turn on the lights?
No.
No?
Sí,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Voy a dejar de compartir la imagen aquí, ¿ok?
Wake up, everybody. Wake up. Wake up. Maybe you can. So tonight was just an introduction.
Hoy solo era una introducción.
This is just the beginning of a much bigger talk.
Que esto es solo el comienzo de una habla más larga.
This is just the beginning of learning a whole lot more.
Solo es el comienzo de aprender algo más.
Now we want to go deeper, so we'll have another one in maybe a month or two.
Esto es solo el comienzo porque queremos entrar más profundo, de pronto como en un mes.
Then we want to talk about like nuestro compañero. What do we do about it?
Y queremos hablar de, como dijo nuestro compañero, qué vamos a hacer acerca de esto.
So once you learn information, you have responsibility.
Una vez que uno aprende una información, tiene una responsabilidad.
You just can't keep it in.
No solo la puede mantener adentro. Tenemos una responsabilidad en compartir esa información, hacer algo sobre ella.
And even though that sounds hard,
Y aunque suena difícil,
you have to think about what we're leaving to our children.
tenemos que pensar en qué estamos dejando de este planeta.
So you've heard about climate marches all over the world.
Hemos escuchado de marchas climáticas sobre todo el mundo.
That's because the children know
Eso es porque los niños saben
that they don't have much of a future.
que no tienen mucho futuro.
And as
Y como adultos somos responsables.
And we will be guilty.
Y seremos culpables
Yo le puse cuidado a la punta hoy, no vi que
si no actuamos.
yo no sé, pero es
So there's a couple of things, I don't know what time it is. How are people doing?
How are you all feeling? ¿Cómo se están sintiendo? Hemos hablado mucho.
Okay, so first, I don't want people to be excited. So
Yeah.
one of the things that the Farm Worker Association is working
Una de las cosas que estamos trabajando en la Asociación Campesina es el estrés de calor.
and in a week and a half,
Y en una semana y media
we're having a big meeting in Orlando.
vamos a tener una reunión grande en Orlando.
And this meeting is to try and we want the state of Florida to pass heat stress protections for all people that work outdoors.
Y queremos que el estado de la Florida pase protección contra el estrés de calor para todas las personas que trabajan afuera.
Okay? And getting something passed, getting regulations for protections for workers doesn't stop climate change.
Y pasando regulaciones y leyes para trabajadores, no para el cambio climático.
But what it does do is it helps protect the people who are the most vulnerable.
Pero protege a la gente que está más vulnerable.
Okay? And then from there, we hope to raise awareness.
Y después queremos sacar, crear conciencia
Okay? About how bad the heat is.
acerca del calor, cómo de malo es el calor.
Okay? And that way we can begin to make our lawmakers understand that they can't turn their backs. They can't say, oh, there's no such thing as climate change.
Y para hacerle caer en cuenta a nuestros gobernadores y políticos que no pueden dar la espalda al cambio climático.
Because we're going to keep on pushing
Porque vamos a mantenerlos empujando
until we get positive change.
hasta que tengamos cambio positivo.
Everybody with us? Sí se puede.
Todos con nosotros.
We nunca más.
We look up.
Yes, we can.
Oh, I
yes,
heard
we
you say
can. Yes, we can. See, yes, we can. All together. Everybody say it in your own language. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
No, we nunca más.
We nunca
más.
Sí se puede.
We nunca más.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
We nunca más.
We
Yes, we can.
Yeah, and then the other thing we are doing about this right now is the community garden. La otra cosa que estamos haciendo acerca del cambio climático es la huerta comunitaria. So yeah, we will share some flyers, and if you need any information, just you can reach Ginny or me.
Gracias, Paola.
Todavía no hemos terminado. ¿Cómo están allá?
Pues ya aburridos, fastidiados, porque ya los veo que a veces no se escucha, se corta, entonces es un poquito difícil, ya sabes.
¿Quieres? Vamos a hacer una última pregunta. ¿Quieres empezar respondiendo por allá o quieres dejarlo así?
No, porque de todas maneras aquí estamos haciendo nuestro debrief también.
Ok. So, ¿ustedes quieren hacer el debrief allá y lo compartimos luego?
¿Vas
Dale,
a hacer algo más? ¿Alguna presentación más? ¿Algo más?
Oh, no, vamos a hacer una lluvia de ideas, si lo quieres hacer allá, de qué son las temáticas que la gente quiere saber más acerca del cambio climático, como ideas que tengan o que quisieran, temas que quieran ver en los siguientes talleres.
Te comento, una de las que comentaron aquí, hay varias aquí que no sabemos reciclar. A lo mejor esa sería una muy importante. Formas de reciclar.
Okay.
Y realmente qué se puede reciclar y todo eso. O sea, yo lo sé, pero yo lo estoy hablando por los que estamos aquí. ¿Algún otro más que tenga? ¿Alguien más que digan ustedes que podemos apoyar? Que...
Yes.
Bueno, sigan preguntando, yo les voy a preguntar aquí de una, no me voy a desconectar.
Vale, vamos a seguir. So just to finish, as Jenny mentioned, the idea of this is that this is gonna be the first of series of workshops. Como Jenny mencionó, la idea es que esto sea la primera de una serie de talleres. So we would like to know what do you wanna know more about climate change? Nos gustaría saber, ustedes que quisieran saber más de cambio climático. How do you think you can be involved? ¿Cómo ustedes creen que se pueden involucrar? And then we also want to hear your opinions about today. Nos gustaría escuchar sus opiniones sobre hoy, sobre lo que hablamos de hoy. If you have any question, if you didn't understand some term or anything, please remember that question and just ask. If it's not right now, you can ask later. También cualquier pregunta, opinión que tengan, si no entendieron algún término, no lo dejen pasar, por favor pregunten. So yeah, maybe we can give. So, aquí en Pearson dijeron que no saben mucho cómo reciclar, que quieren empezar a reciclar, pero no saben cómo hacerlo. So over there in Pearson, they say they want to start recycling, but they don't know exactly how to do it. So that will be one topic.
What about compost? You know how to do compost? Compost. ¿Qué más? What else? Okay, very good. Day-to-day things you can do to stop climate change. What would you all like to learn about the environment and climate change? Lookner, if you can ask them. Lookner, can you ask them what they would like to learn more about the environment and climate change for their garden? If you can ask what more they would like to learn next time about climate change or the environment or agriculture, gardening. Edison, Ani, you have ideas?
Yo estoy hablando acerca de una forma de impacto en la sociedad. Porque si verdaderamente estamos trabajando sobre leyes y cosas así para mejorar la justicia climática y todo esto, también tenemos que buscar una forma de que esto sea eficiente y que sea sustentable. Estaba comentando a Jessica que el mismo continente de Europa, de algunos países, no todos, como han logrado algo en este aspecto, es luchando contra las horas de trabajo. Bajar en las horas de trabajo y subir los salarios. Comentaba ella sobre el país de Canadá, Finlandia, estos países que lo han logrado, Australia. Entonces, la cuestión es la siguiente: la gente tiene más tiempo, al tener más tiempo, piensa, tiene más tiempo para dedicarle al jardín, tiene más tiempo para hacer otras cosas. Pero acá, con el estrés de la vida, constantemente trabaja porque no tiene dinero para pagar, nunca es suficiente. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, no, he's saying he's talking about like more like a social like a social impact. Sorry, he's in Spanish. Like a social impact, because like he's talking about examples of other countries like reducing the work week, and that alleviates time for you to focus on other things, you know. But I think like he's saying that, but I think that has to go hand in hand with capitalism. Like the way things are here is because of capitalism. Like we're slaves because capitalism. Like unless we Like, that's what we have to address, like capitalism. Because like, yeah, like the countries he's saying, the other examples, like, are these countries capital? They're not capitalist? It's like another sort of economy that's not capitalist. So, you know, I think that kind of goes. I mean, some of them, not all of them, you know.
So yo estaba diciendo que que algo de eso tiene que ver con el sistema capitalista y la forma como el ritmo de vida que llevamos. I do agree in that, and I agree, and I feel solutions are those that are like opposite to that massive system, and that are like community, how we actually, how community looks like in United States. Cómo luce la comunidad en Estados Unidos, because like something that I saw like in the change where I was born and here is that difference of what community is and how we all support each other. So una de las cosas que yo vi, la diferencia más grande cuando vine acá a Estados Unidos es cómo creamos esas soluciones comunitarias y nos apoyamos entre nosotros. So for example, how we create community, like our jobs, our ways of do health and medicine, our ways to do our popular education. So, cómo creamos soluciones comunitarias a través de la salud, de la educación comunitaria, de los trabajos que podemos compartir entre nosotros.
Además, creo que tengo referencias, estoy seguro, de dos localidades acá en Estados Unidos, dos estados acá en Estados Unidos, que son los que tienen el nivel de, digamos, de salud. No creo que sea de salud, sino de conocimiento al respecto, más alto. Por ejemplo, California, Boston, y hay un mínimo común entre estos dos estados. Tienen unión. Y la unión pelea por todas estas cosas. Acá en Florida no tenemos unión.
He's saying that there are two examples, like Boston and California. They have a little better conditions of work, but that's because they're collectively bargaining. They're collectively unionizing. So that's the only difference. Here in Florida, there's no union.
Lagarto, cortándole solamente la cola, que va a volver a salir. Corta directamente la cabeza, directo al problema de raíz.
Yeah, it's just we have to look at the problem from the root, because if not, you just perpetuating more problems.
So I think that might be a good topic for our next workshop, is to talk about community and capitalism and how the two. Yeah. Oh, okay, great. So that's a really good one. So Danny's suggestion is to have a workshop or
like a small garden.
How to do small gardens, like in your windowsill at home, or a small pots. Okay, so one last time around, any questions or comments before we close? Okay.
Questions?
So first of all, I want to say that I think we should all say a huge thank you. Look at how pretty the room looks. Okay, we need to say a huge thank you to Paola for all the work that she did. She made the PowerPoint presentation. She decorated the table, brought in all these plants and organized it. And she and Cameron did the food. So thanks to Cameron and Paola and to Diego, because they did a huge amount of work to make this happen. So let's give them a big thanks. They were, all three of them worked really hard, and they are the youth, the future generation.
We're old. We're getting old. Lookner. Oh, he's asking a question.
So we're passing this around. So if you smell this, and also thank Paola for making all these beautiful jars.
Oh yeah, all those are dry herbs.
And I suggest that if you want to get calm and not get stressed out, come by and smell it.
So, todas esas son hierbas, creo que ya no hay. Ya, y él. Todas ellas son hierbas, hierbas secas de la huerta. What? I think he has a question, right?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I would like to also close, and this is something that we used to do in the garden, recognizing our ancestors, the ancestors of these lands, and your presence for being here. I don't think we're here by coincidence. So queremos terminar reconociendo a nuestros ancestros, los ancestros de estas tierras, sus ancestros. Creo que y su presencia acá es muy importante. No creo que estamos aquí por coincidencia.
but also,
And also,
look around the room. Look around the room. What do we have in this room? We have diversity. How beautiful is that? Right? We're all from different ethnic groups, and we can live in peace and harmony. We can all work together to change the world. So when you walk out of here tonight, take that with you. Okay? Take that peace and that harmony with you, put it inside of you, and then give it back out. Got it? Can we do one? Some people didn't introduce themselves, so people that. Okay. Can you introduce yourselves?
Yes.
Oh,
My husband.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Aspen.
You're a student.
I'm a student of high school.
And we were saying like our roots, like if you're born like somewhere else.
Your home country. And you're from Haiti? What's the one there? His name is Monty, and he's your. So we are all one. We're all individuals, but we're all one. Celebrate diversity. Yeah, that's right. That's what we like here.
yep, I think we're good.
Maybe we could all stand up.
It's our duty to strive for freedom.
Everybody all stand up and shake hands with somebody you don't know.
Cierran la colita. Es una de las cosas que la otra de arroz. Y las hormiguitas van a ir. Yo sé, soy un museo, pero que hace es que las no van a ser tan de ir a comer arroz, O sea, es como...
You already hear
Yeah.
this? All right, then yeah, that's good.
O sea, estoy dando opciones que a lo mejor, y es que en realidad es lo que sufrimos.
A mí me da risa también. Bueno, es que hay gente que le hace
This is another reason.
Okay. Oh yeah. But I can help with that for sure. I just didn't know if you started writing it down.
Oh, the karate. I think it's because it's better.
And they don't get that exercise.
But yeah. Oh, yes. Look there, what do you want?
Stay at home, stay.
Okay, pose for just 1 minute.
What do you get? Hold it. Come here. Did you get the picture? Okay.
Oh my God. Some people don't like pictures. Yeah, you can't force them. Yeah.
So I'm checking on my report every day, and it is going good. It is going good.
Mandarin.
And then checking on. Yeah, and then I don't want the kids to take no kind of way. I got me a switch. So that's all.
Wow. The one that makes the sound.
Yes, yes. I got everything in my bag. I got 7 of them. I said, I got 30, you got that.
Which one you like? This one. That's the one for you. Maybe.
Yeah.
It depends also if it like was in the shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a little bit until it like,
Yeah.
then it needs a little bit of like, a little, like while it goes through like, while it takes a little bit.
Yeah.
But there, I don't know, some of them are fake, some of them fake. This is Volbe.
Oh.
You know those little logs. But this is a white one. So this is a tree, this is big. Yeah, these are huge, big trees. Big trees.
That's the one with
That's
the
one. Yeah, that's the one. Like the one in the garden.
With these right there, there's our feelers, and then you can keep the jar.
It does get big. Big trees.
I put it on my back.
Talk to them about the product that they want to buy.
What do you want to buy? You don't know?
Yeah, I know it's.
That's like a
you know,
little,
like-
I think it's like a Mexican.
Thank you so much.
No. Yeah.
You can do it all.
Luke, when are you going to the garden?
Emil con me, the piece of land.
I know. I understand.
I will take it. I will.
Yeah, I want you to see the flower, like what you think.
I also know feeders, big potato.
Porque yo generalmente, like, when I generally think it's of them Sunday, Octobre. Yeah. That works for you? I mean, we're thinking in
No, those are mulberries.
So mulberries are like, they're like
I can do this.
How is
So where are the example farming areas?
Yeah.
Well, this one was with the TV, but that one we found, or this was in the classroom, right? I don't know, John. But this one was.
Like if you have like a sunny window, like a sunny spot.
So you see that? Are you ready? I can drop you off.
And then those controls are also what you might for. Okay, thank you, Governor. Thank you. Have a good night. This is the TV. It's from here. Don't keep it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there might be different for us. Yeah, they get like a tree, like in the ground. You can always just take it like take it, and then you put it in the dirt. Take your I like this. I'll put a potato. Put like rosemary, like salt. And like garlic, a lot of garlic.
And then if you want,
I'm not sure what. And then the flowers attract like if you put them aside and you let it flower.
Eso va a tener que especificar más sesiones.
Yeah.
No puede ser una
Y lo único que hace todo es que tú dices,
Okay, so
Yeah,
this has all of the laptop stuff, and this has all of the projectors, like I don't know what this.
Yeah. See, the difference is like I tell you.
This is all palettes.
Okay, so.
Yeah, there's like,
we only have two laptops.
my personal laptop, which I have in my backpack, and it's yeah, we just, there's something in here, but we just use it to pop the projectors. Yeah, these cords are, those are, yeah.
No, that's not the material, but it's not.
Okay.
I don't know where those are either. We can get those to prop things up.
What is this?
Those things right there.
Right,
But I don't know where we got those.
Poleo.
Okay.
Poleo is like a stick. Poleo is like a stick. Yeah, that's a great no. She knows what this is. She knows what this is. What did you say this was?
Yeah, no, that's all. This is for back computer.
Oh, okay. So that's all the
Yeah, and then it goes with this little thing.
Oh, perfect.
I never stopped this. Oh my god.